skills, that dream that you have, what skills will you require, to be able to push that dream? So, this kind of conversation shifts the conversation from go and read. We tell them, go and read your book. So it shifts from go and read to let's create your pathway together. Let's create a pathway for you and let's do it together. So you want to ask your child, what skill would make the biggest difference to your future? And of course, you ask your child, what are you doing to develop that skill? You can ask your child, who is teaching you right now? Whether formally or informally, just ask that question, because learning doesn't always have to be formal. There are also informal ways of learning. So you tell the child, every version of success was built on a specific set of skills. You want to drive that into your child. Then, and of course, this is crucial, help your child to access the skill development they need. It can be a course. Get a course for him or her. It can be a mentorship. Get a mentor for your child. It can be an apprenticeship or even an internship. So invest in your child, commit to investing in your child's development, not just paying their school fees. Invest in their personal development. And when you do this, just watch how it transforms the conversation between you and your child. You see, when you invest money in a child's passion, in what a child loves to do, and of course, you're not investing just to indulge the child. Thank you.
All right, so madam, you have the floor. You can share and go ahead, ma'am. You have an hour and 10 minutes, and there are questions that will be put on the chat box for you. Over to you, madam. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And once again, thank you all for welcoming me. So, hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, madam.
So thank you all for joining this meeting, which is the second and the last part of the topic we began last month, from dreaming to doing, raising young adults who embrace the process of success. So let's quickly dive into it. But before I continue from where I stopped, let me do a quick recap. I would like to do a quick recap of what I shared with you last month. I shared that your child's biggest challenge may not necessarily be laziness or school or social media, as we usually think. I told you that their biggest struggle is that they are trying to build an adult future with an adolescent brain. They're trying to build an adult future with an adolescent brain. And of course, they're trying to do this while living in a digital world that rewards visibility more than maturity. And I remember telling you that unless we understand how the adolescent brain works, we'll keep correcting behavior without addressing the beliefs that are driving such behavior. I went on to reassure you of the basic truth, which is that the child you're raising is not broken, but something is competing for their mind. And I told you that the adolescent brain naturally overestimates rewards and underestimates consequences. And that's why many young people, they genuinely believe that success should happen quickly. I went ahead to share some key adolescent brain facts with you. And I explained to you that when your child says, "You don't understand me," they may be right, not because you're a bad parent, but because you're having an adult conversation with a brain that is still learning how to have adult conversations. Now, in that part one of this teaching, I also tried to make you understand that your child is living in what I choose to call, or what I choose to refer to as a highlight generation. A generation that consumes thousands of success stories without really seeing the actual process behind those stories. And that's because, you see, social media has made it possible. Social media has made it possible, to compress many years of hard work into a 30-second highlight video. So what your child is now always seeing is, your child is always seeing the mansion, the luxury cars, the awards, while not seeing the years of rejection. The child is not seeing the discipline, the apprenticeship period, and the delayed gratification that led to those successes that are compressed in the 30-second reels. I also told you that our young adults are not simply looking for money. They are looking for significance. And I showed you the 5 questions every young person is secretly trying to answer, which are questions of who am I? And that's because they want an identity. They're asking, where do I belong? And that's because they want acceptance. Your child is asking, well, what am I good at? And the child is asking that question because they want competence. Your child is asking, why am I here? And the child is asking, why am I here? Because they want to know their purpose. They want to understand their role in the world. And they are asking, does my life matter? So they're asking, that they're wondering if their lives matter. And that's because they want significance. They want meaning for their lives. And I told you that when these questions remain unanswered at home, your child starts searching for answers elsewhere. Your child starts searching for answers from friends, from influencers, from celebrities, from online communities, and sometimes from unhealthy relationships. Of course, I went on to show you the 3 layers of disengagement, and of course, how you can recognize them. And I suggested, what you can do in such instances so that when a child says school is a waste of time, you will know exactly what your child is trying to communicate, and of course, how to start approaching it. So I shared the 4 layers with you, which are, the first layer is boredom or under stimulation, where you begin to notice that the child just finds formal, the child finds formal learning to be slow or irrelevant. And it could just be that the child doesn't find the learning environment interesting, or maybe because the child is not finding the learning environment, the structured school environment, exciting enough. And that child may require some extra support and motivation. And then I also told you the second layer of disengagement, which is genuine alternative wiring. And that's where you can find that the child is clearly not interested in things within the normal academic structure. Rather, you will notice that the child is entrepreneurial in nature. You clearly notice it. Or you see that child is more technically gifted and the child feels suffocated by rigid structures. Then I told you the third layer of rebellion, which is rebellion, where the child begins to withdraw socially, and you may notice signs of anxiety, depression, and even peer pressure. Of course, the child also starts avoiding school completely without any alternative purposeful plan, or idea or effort. Of course, I went ahead to emphatically reassure you that most teenagers do not hate learning. Rather, what they hate is any form of learning that appears disconnected from their future. You see, with this, I try to help you understand that school is not the enemy. And I told you that the real enemy is lack of meaning, because when a young child or a young adult doesn't understand what he or she is learning from school, or what he or she is learning is connected to any higher purpose for their lives, the motivation to learn will disappear. So I went ahead to explain to you that learning wears different clothes. And I told you that every dream, every vision, every purpose still requires learning. Just that learning, like I told you, simply comes wrapped in different apparels. I went on to explain that learning could wear the cloak of traditional academics, or learning could come in the form of self-paced knowledge, and it could come in the form of mentorship, in the form of apprenticeship, and the rest of them. And I said that the focus for us as parents should be more on learning than on academic laurels. Of course, I also I try to remind you of your new role as a parent of the Gen Z and Alpha generations. I told you that your role is no longer to be the primary source of information, to your child. And that's because, you see, right now, information is everywhere. I reminded you that with Google, with AI, with social media, and of course, with digital technology as a whole, your child can access almost any information they want at the snap of their finger. So, despite all of this information is everywhere, the transformation is still very rare. So I told you that the parenting model that worked 30 years ago, where you focus majorly on dishing out countless advice and laws, and then you punish, and then of course you endlessly yell, is no longer sustainable. I told you that your new role is to become the person who is able to correctly interpret the world to your child. Your new role is to become the parent that can help your child to clearly understand and successfully navigate the world as it is at this moment. And I told you that to be able to do this, you need to learn, you need to understand, and you need to speak your child's language enough for them to trust you as their most powerful mentor. So I told you that instead of constantly correcting behavior, it's important for you to start helping your child to find answers to questions like their identity, which is, who am I? So help the child to find out who he or she is. Help them to find answers to the question of their character. Who am I becoming? Help them to find answers to questions concerning their contribution to the world, which is how the child will make the world better. You know, the child is asking, what role can I play in the world? So the child wants to know their contribution to the world. So help them to find answers. You know, and of course, I told you that when these 4 things become clear to a child, that child will become internally motivated to do the right things, such that, you know, you automatically stop dragging that child, because they will begin driving themselves automatically. And now we wrapped up that session after I showed you some things parents do in response to this challenge of young people chasing success without wanting to go through the process. You know, things that some parents do that actually make matters significantly worse. So I told you about the 4 things, which include the fear-based parenting, where you use languages that introduce pressure and fear to your child. And of course, there is a second trap, you know, parents fall into, which is the trap of comparison parenting, where you're constantly comparing your child with their peers, with their siblings, and even with yourself, you know, with your younger self. Now, I talked about the third trap, which is the trap of dream hijacking, which is when you're trying to force a young person into a pathway or into a career they did not choose. And I told you how this will kill passion, and how this will just go on to produce mediocrity and resentment. And of course, I explained to you that none of these outcomes honors your sacrifice as a parent. It was at this point that I reminded you that the goal of parenting is not to reproduce your own aborted dream through your child. Your role is to embrace your noble assignment of helping your child discover their own God-given design and pathway, and then equip them to work excellently in that God-given design and pathway. And of course, finally, I showed you the 4th trap, which is the trap of trying to dismiss your child without dialogue, you know, dismissal without dialogue, where you're always dismissing your child's opinion and feelings and suggestions, and of course, always shutting them down. You know, you shut down the conversation even before it starts. And I explained to you the dangers of these 4 traps I just mentioned. So that's me recapping all that we talked about last week, or all that I taught last week. So now, having refreshed your minds on where we were exactly last month, I want to go straight into the second and concluding part of this teaching. And I'll start with what effective parents do differently. Now, I've told you some of the traps we fall into as parents. So here now, I want to just show you. I want to give you some practical tools. And of course, by this, I mean, I want to show you strategies that work. And these strategies are not just theories, you know, but these are approaches I have seen work. I've seen them work in my coaching practice. I've seen them work in my own parent-child relationship, and in the lives of families who were actually willing to be more intentional with parenting. So the first strategy I want to show you today is that of connection before correction. So as a parent, the most powerful 4 words you can say to a disengaged or disconnected child, or a child that you think is actually, you know, is trying to withdraw from school and all of that. So the most powerful words you can say to them is not, you must go to school. No, rather, you should be saying things that help you understand that child. For instance, if you notice your child is getting less interested in school, you can actually begin with sincerely asking questions that help you gather intelligence, questions that, you know, that help you understand your child better. You know, questions like, what is it about school that feels wrong to you right now? Ask that question. Ask the child, who do you admire and why? You know, you can ask your child, what do you want your life to look like in the next 10 years? You can ask your child, what do you believe you're good at? You know, and as I said earlier, these types of questions, they do 2 things. First, they help you with intelligence gathering, and they tell you, you know, which layer of disengagement you're dealing with, whether it's the first or the second or the third layer of disengagement. And of course, you know, second and more importantly, these questions open the emotional door. And you know that the child that you genuinely listen to is the child who will eventually be guided by you. A child that you listen to is a child that will allow you, you know, that will accept your guidance. Now, the second strategy, you know, effective parents are using right now is connecting learning to their child's dream, which is purpose. I told you earlier that young people do not hate learning. what they hate is learning without purpose, learning without knowing the reason why they are learning. So the moment you connect a skill or subject to something your child cares about, everything will change. And this is the most important reframe available to you as a parent. So a great way, to do this is just by helping your child create a table, create a table that shows their dreams, the skills required to give life to that dream, and as well as the subjects that can help them develop those skills. For instance, for a child whose dream is to become a footballer, instead of dismissing that dream, sit together with that child and then work together on a table, draw a table that clearly shows the child the skills he requires in order to become a successful footballer. As well as let the child also understand the subjects he needs to study in order to develop those skills. Please, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So for a child that says he wants to become a footballer, you can create a table that clearly shows, that he needs to be conversant with nutrition, because he has to be very healthy to be able to play football, and then so you need to create a table that shows that he needs to be conversant with nutrition. He has to understand physical science. Of course, he has to understand what discipline means, and of course, some bit of psychology, and then explain to him that he needs to study subjects like biology, physical education, English language for proper communication, and if possible, he should go ahead and study psychology. So of course that encourages your child and knows and helps the child to know that, oh, you're really interested in his dreams or his passion, and that child will of course follow your leading. He will listen to you and go ahead and acquire the skills and then study those subjects that is required for him to be able to achieve that dream. So another example would be a child, for instance, a child insists that he wants to go straight into business, and of course that child does not think he needs to go to school to achieve that. So you can actually create a table that clearly shows that child that he needs to acquire financial literacy skills. He will need to acquire communication skills. He will need to acquire leadership skills as an entrepreneur. And of course, he even needs to acquire skills, the strategy skills. So, and of course, you will now help him know that to acquire these skills, he needs to study subjects like economics, subjects like English, and even government. So the same goes for a child who sees content creation as the way to go right now, and then that he's beginning to feel that he doesn't need to get an education to become a content creator. So try it, just try it and watch what happens. When a child realizes that mathematics is not a punishment, but mathematics is the foundation for every financial decision that he will ever make. So you also watch what happens when an aspiring content creator understands that the ability to communicate properly, especially in English language, is what may separate a viral video from an ignored one. So the key thing here is connection, such that your child trusts you enough to listen as you go through this entire process with him. So that strategy I want to share is that of showing them what they cannot see. This is what effective parents are doing right now. So they are showing their children what they cannot see. Now, you see, I keep talking about these 30 seconds highlight reels. Those are what social media intentionally shows your child. And, by so doing, what young people these days are seeing they're seeing the mansion, they're seeing the luxury car, they're seeing the viral moment in that 30 seconds viral, that's real. They are seeing the overnight success, and then they are seeing the school dropouts who made millions. But what they are not seeing, what they do not see, is the 10 years of invisible work before that breakthrough. They're not seeing the businesses that failed before the successful one. You see, they're not seeing thousands of videos that were posted that didn't get any form of engagement. They didn't see those ones before. The only ones that are seen are the ones that went viral. They're not seeing the coaches, they're not seeing the mentors, the continuous learning, and of course the back-end efforts that created the skill. They are not even seeing the discipline, the sacrifices, and the delayed gratification that those people had to go through before they achieved success. So your role is to show your child the full film. It's important for you to find Nigerian success stories, real success stories, people your child respects, and then expose your child to their stories. Get them to watch full interviews not just clips, not just 5 minutes clips or 45 seconds clips. Encourage your child to read. Let them read the real biographies of these role models, not just Instagram captions. For instance, Dangote, for instance, he did not become Africa's richest man just by scrolling. He became what he is by solving everyday problems of families, everyday problems of individuals, everyday problems of the markets. He understood markets. He built systems. He built systems over the decades. That is this kind of story, the kind of story your child needs to continually hear in full, not the highlight reels that don't tell the entire story. So expose your child deliberately to successful professionals who love what they do. Expose them to entrepreneurs who will tell them the real story, including the failures they encountered. Expose your child to skilled craftsmen, and of course, women who built expertise over time. Expose your child, deliberately expose your child to faith leaders and community builders who lead with character. Expose your child to young people like themselves who are ahead, of course, ahead along on the journey. Not just the celebrities, but relatable role models. So the fourth strategy I will share with you is that of teaching your child the truth about wealth creation. Most young people have been sold a very dangerous lie. And that lie is that money comes to you once you desire it. It comes to those who desire it the most. So you want to start early to teach your child the truth, to debunk that lie. So you want to start early to teach your child the truth, which is that money does not follow ambition. It's not enough for you to be ambitious and then money will come to you. Instead, money follows value. And of course, value is always the product of learning, skills, and service. Value is the product of learning, skills, and service. So teach them the simple wealth creation equation, which is to identify a problem and then develop the skills to solve that problem. Then tell them to use that skill they develop to create and package a solution, which they now offer to those who need it. That's how value is created. And of course, financial rewards get received when they give those values, because value equals wealth. It is value that produces wealth. So I want to tell you that every sustainable form of wealth creation follows this simple equation. And of course, without the middle steps, which is the skill and the solution, there is no compensation. There is no financial reward. So show them this, discuss it, make it concrete. Let your child know and understand that the footballer is wealthy because he solved the problem of entertainment and sporting excellence. And of course, he did it because he did it at a level that took years of training and discipline, before he could achieve it. Tell them that the entrepreneur that is wealthy, that they admire, is wealthy because he solved the market problem through research, after many failed attempts. And of course, through learning and then modifying his approach. So let them know that there are no shortcuts in the equation. What exists are invisible steps. These people that they admire, they have taken steps, though the children may not see those steps. Now, the fifth strategy that parents are using, which I encourage you to try applying, is that of addressing your child's love language, because every child receives guidance differently. Every child, even if you have 4 children, all of them will not receive guidance the same way. So before you decide how to guide your child, you must understand how your child receives love and connection. You must understand how each child receives love and connection. Now, a young child whose love language is words of affirmation will shut down in a conversation where you begin with criticism, no matter how valid that criticism you're giving is. Now, a child whose love language is quality time will not likely receive your guidance if your only interaction with him comes off as a performance review all the time. You're always wanting to know how did you perform in mathematics, what is your grade in physics, and all of that. So my point is that for you to know your child, is for you to guide your child properly, you need to know your child's love language. learn their love language, speak it to them first. Just watch them become open to your guidance. So I'll go ahead to, there are 6 conversations, six specific conversations. I'm done right now with the 5 strategies I wanted to show you, 5 tools you should begin applying from today. So I'll just go ahead to also give you another tool, which is 6 specific conversations that you should start having with your teenager. I didn't say lectures, I didn't say ultimatum. I said genuine, sincere conversations you should start having with your child. You see, when you consistently have these conversations over time, your child will do, these conversations will do more for your child than any punishment or pressure that you try to apply. So the first conversation is the identity conversation. So this conversation aims at answering the question of who are you. I've consistently talked about who are you in my teaching here. So this first conversation about identity is a type of conversation that is not geared towards career counseling. It's not a career counseling session. It's a spiritual and identity conversation. It's a spiritual and identity conversation. So here is how to have that conversation. Ask your child, who does God say you are? You see, it will be helpful when you're doing this conversation, when you're having this conversation, it will be helpful for you to reference the book of Ephesians, yes, while Ephesians 1 and 2, yes, while having this conversation. So ask your child, what kind of person do you want to become? Now, the second conversation you need to start having with your child is the purpose conversation. Now, see how this type of conversation goes, or how you can actually go on with this. Now, don't have this conversation during a conflict. So you begin with your own story. Something like, let me tell you when I first understood what I was made to be. Something like that. You can just start with that. Let me just want to share your own story with your child. Then you can ask your child, what do you think God puts you specifically on this earth to do? These are conversation starters. They give room for your child to, open up, and say to you things you actually ordinarily will not say to you, if all you do is put pressure on them. So ask your child, if money was not a factor at all, what would you spend your life doing? And of course, ask your child, what problem in the world makes you angry? Or what problem do you see around you that breaks your heart enough that you wish you're able to fix it? So, and of course, while you're asking your child this question, please listen without judgment. Just take notes mentally and then come back to it later. Now, this purpose conversation is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing exploration. It's an ongoing exploration. So just remember that your job, is to keep the question alive, not to provide the answers. Just keep the conversation flowing. Don't jump in. Don't interrupt the child. And of course, don't guide your child to answering those questions. Remember, it's an ongoing conversation. You can always come back to it later. And the third conversation you can have with your child, or you should have with your child, is the character conversation. The character conversation. Now, this one is what helps your child answer the question, who am I becoming? That is character. You see, this is the conversation, most parents avoid. They skip it. And of course, they prefer to rush instead to asking the child, what are you achieving, and all of that, or what do you want to become? But character is the foundation, that determines whether achievement is sustainable or not. So here is how you can have this type of conversation. Ask your child, what kind of person do you want to be known as? Not what do you want to be known for, or not what do you want to become? Ask your child, what kind of person do you want to be known as? Example could be, ask your child, give him a clue. Is it you want to be known as a loyal person, as a disciplined person, as an honest person, as a patient person? These are the kind of responses you're trying to get from your child. Now, ask your child, what values do you want to guide your life? What are those values that you want to guide your life? Because, of course, those values become your child's guiding principles. Ask your child, A question like, if your closest friend described your character right now, what do you think your friend will say about you? Then, of course, you want to ask your child who they are becoming. You know, ask them if who they are becoming is aligned with who they want to be. That's a very important question. You know, ask your child, is who you are becoming aligned with who you want to be? Now, you see, when you do this, just go ahead and connect character to their dream. Connect character to their dream by helping them understand that the content creator who has no integrity will gain an audience. He will gain a massive audience, but he will lose that audience because he lacks integrity. Even though he seemed to have made it as a content creator, but over time he will lose that audience. He will lose that following if he does not have character. Help your child understand that the entrepreneur who has no discipline will, of course, make money, but he will mismanage that money. So tell your child that the footballer with no character will reach the top. And of course, he will get to the top and then crash. Once he has no character, he will get to the top and self-destruct. So you want to help your child understand that character is not separate from success. Tell them that character is actually what makes success last. It's not two of them who go hand in hand. So you want to, help your child understand that. So the fourth conversation is that of the strength conversation. The strength conversation. Now, this conversation is the one that will help your child discover what they are good at. So you want to ask your child, what are you naturally good at? You see, this is one of the reasons I advocate for strengths-based assessments and personality profiling. Many young people are labeled as lazy or unserious. Many of them are labeled as lazy or unserious, when in reality, they are simply, they simply haven't discovered how they are wired to learn. They have not discovered how they are wired to think. Yes, they have not discovered how they are wired to learn and how they are wired to think. So the fifth conversation is the skills conversation. From time to time, ask yourself, what skills are you developing? Now, this conversation reframes the school's debates entirely. So the question is no longer, are you going to school? The question becomes, are you developing? So here is how to have this conversation. Ask your child, what are you getting better at right now? Ask your child that question. Just tell the child to show you. What do you think you have improved on, over the last month or over the holiday? Ask your child to show you. It makes the child feel connected. Or you could ask your child, what skills, that dream that you have, what skills will you require, to be able to push that dream? So, this kind of conversation shifts the conversation from go and read. We tell them, go and read your book. So it shifts from go and read to let's create your pathway together. Let's create a pathway for you and let's do it together. So you want to ask your child, what skill would make the biggest difference to your future? And of course, you ask your child, what are you doing to develop that skill? You can ask your child, who is teaching you right now? Whether formally or informally, just ask that question, because learning doesn't always have to be formal. There are also informal ways of learning. So you tell the child, every version of success was built on a specific set of skills. You want to drive that into your child. Then, and of course, this is crucial, help your child to access the skill development they need. It can be a course. Get a course for him or her. It can be a mentorship. Get a mentor for your child. It can be an apprenticeship or even an internship. So invest in your child, commit to investing in your child's development, not just paying their school fees. Invest in their personal development. And when you do this, just watch how that child, it transforms the conversation between you and your child. You see, when you invest money in a child's passion, in what a child loves to do, and of course, you're not investing it just to indulge the child, but when you're doing it to challenge the child to develop that passion seriously, everything will change. So when you invest in your child's passion, what the child will not be doing is, that child who has been demanding freedom from you will suddenly find himself boxed into a corner where he's trying to produce results, based on the fact that you've invested in him and you're expecting results. So he's trying to produce results. And of course, that is accountability. And that is very powerful. And of course, the last conversation, the sixth conversation, is the legacy conversation. Now, you want to ask your child, what do you want people to remember about you when you're 40 years old? Or, okay, what do you want them to remember you for in the next 5 years? You see, a lot of, in the next 5, 10, or 15 years. So you see a lot of young people hardly think, they don't think this far. They don't think far ahead unless someone draws their attention. You know, this kind of conversation strengthens your child's ability to think long term. And here is how you can start having this conversation. You can actually make it a vision exercise, not an interrogation. So you can just get the child, tell the child to imagine, you know, for example, that they are 40 years old. And then you ask that child to walk you through his day as a 40-year-old person. That child could just be 15, but you tell him to imagine that he's 40 years old. And of course, you tell him to walk you through his day, you know, as a 40-year-old person. Now you ask him, where are you? Okay, you're 40 years old now, right? Where are you? Ask your child, ask him, what are you doing? Of course, he's imagining, and then he's responding to you based on what he's envisioning in his mind. So you ask him, who is around you? You know, ask him, how do you feel as a 40-year-old person? Then, of course, after asking this question and getting his responses, then you want to walk backwards by asking this child, you know, what needs to happen between now and the time you will be 40 for you to achieve what you have just envisioned? You know, what needs to happen? What needs to happen in your life for you to be able to, that this thing that you just envisioned, for it to become real, for it to manifest in your life? So you want to make that connection explicit by asking the child, what would you need to learn to be able to become this person that you just imagined, this person that you just envisioned? Who would you need to become? Who would you need to become? You want to ask him, what habits would you need to build starting from today in order to achieve this vision that you've just seen for your life? You see, I bet you most teenagers have never been invited to think like this about their future. They have always been told about their future, what they should be. They've been warned about their future. They've been threatened with it. They've been compared to other people's futures. But nobody has actually sat with this same child and said, dream it aloud and let us walk backwards together. This is a type of conversation that will transform your child. Now, I want to share a reframe that I believe is one of the most liberating things it's one of the most liberating things I'll be saying to you tonight. The goal has never been school. The goal has never been school. The goal has always been about learning. And you agree with me that school and learning are two different things. They're not the same thing. So you need to help your child understand that learning is not confined to a classroom. Let your child understand that learning happens, it can happen anywhere. It happens through, of course, formal education, which is structured classrooms, structured academic instructions in a structured classroom or school environment. That's formal education. Let the child understand that learning also comes from them building knowledge from books, through reading, through becoming a voracious reader. So help them understand that learning also happens through mentors, through seminars, through conferences, and also through apprenticeships. So teach them also that learning happens through experiences and failure. And of course, this is one of the most expensive and most durable teacher. It's quite expensive, so sometimes it's not even good to learn from experience. So explain to them that learning can also happen through self-paced development, like online courses, as well as through travels and exposure. So these are all different ways that a child can learn. Learning must not always be in the classroom. So you see, if a child understands this, that child will become a lifelong learner. Not because they love school, but because they love growing. And of course, the child who loves growing is unstoppable. In fact, there's no economy, there's no system, there's no setback that can stop such a child, because they are always building. So your goal should be to help your child become a lifelong learner, a lifelong learner. Now, let's quickly look at the biblical foundations that support our desire to raise children, who are willing and grounded enough to go through the process that leads up to real success. Instead of just wanting to become successful without going through the process. if you look at the book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 29, the Bible tells us, and of course I quote, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before kings. You can see that the Bible emphasized on skill, not just ambition. The Bible did not just talk about desire. It didn't say desire, but skill, which is, of course, developed through learning. Skill is developed through learning, is developed through discipline, and is developed through constant practice. That is, of course, what places a person before kings. That is what places an ordinary person, before kings, before princes. That is what gives your child access to rooms that even their parents cannot open for them. And of course, if you look at Luke chapter 2, verse 52, we also read where Jesus was, where he said that Jesus increased in wisdom, and in favor and in stature with God and man. Here also, the Bible helped us to understand the fact that Jesus did not arrive at his ministry assignment without process. He didn't just jump into ministry. He actually grew in wisdom before he walked into power. He submitted to learning before he demonstrated mastery. He honored the process before he changed the world through his ministry. And of course, if the process was necessary for Jesus, it is certainly necessary for our children. So we need to help them understand all of these things from the biblical perspective also. So, here are 5 things I wish that you start doing from tomorrow. Identify which layer of disengagement your child is in. Is it boredom? I showed you 3. Is it boredom? Is it the layer of alternative wiring? Is it the layer of rebellion? And then simply adjust your approach or how you have been responding to it based on the tips I gave to you. Then I would like you to, from tomorrow, I'd like you to identify your child's primary love language. There are 5 of them. You have the touch, the physical touch. You have there are 5 of them. So you have the physical touch, you have the gifts, you have the service. Some children like it when you help them, when you help them to do things. Some children like it when you give them gifts. Some children like it when you hold them, when you hold them on their shoulder while you're actually, scolding them, you're holding them on the shoulder, making them to know that you actually love them, irrespective of the fact that you're actually correcting them. So identify your child's primary love language, and then that will actually help you to be able to communicate love effectively to your child. Then, of course, there's words of affirmation, where you don't always focus on what the child has done. So even when a child has not actually performed in school the way you expect, you can go ahead to, affirm the efforts that child has made. Let the child understand that you appreciate his or her little efforts. That's words of affirmation. That's a very strong love language. So identify the one that is your child's love language, and of course, go ahead and use it on your child. So there are 6 conversations I showed you tonight. So just go ahead and choose one out of those conversations. And then choose one. I didn't say start all of them today. Choose one, and the one that you're going to have with them in the new week that is starting tomorrow. And of course, use some of the approaches I shared with you. Now, I want you to, the 4th thing I want you to do is also to research your child's dream. Research your child's dream. Find 3 skills that child requires to be able to achieve that dream. And of course, go ahead and share your findings with your child. So research, I mentioned to you, told you about the example of the content creator, the footballer, helping your child to understand the skills that he requires for any of them. And then going ahead to also connect the subjects, let them understand the subjects they require to be able to get that, to be able to acquire the skill they need to achieve that dream. So please go ahead, research, find out what your child wants to become, their dream, and then go ahead to research what are the skills they require, and then share your findings with your child. As I round up, I want to urge you, please, do not merely ask, how can I make my child love school again? That should not be your primary concern. Instead, ask, how can I help my child discover purpose? How can I help my child embrace learning? How can I help my child develop skills? How can I help my child build character? You see, school is one of the pathways to success. It is not the only pathway to success. But you see, learning is indispensable. Is indispensable. You can't do without it. And the child who stops learning eventually stops growing. And of course, the child who stops growing will eventually stop succeeding. So your assignment as a parent is not to produce a student. Your assignment is to raise a learner, a lifelong learner. Your assignment is to raise a leader. Your assignment is to raise a person of character, a person who will stand not just before men. You see, a person who will stand not just before men, but a person that will stand before God. Again, your job tonight is not to go home and have all the conversations at once. Everything that you have heard me say, don't go and start fixing them, because your child does not need fixing. No, your child does not need fixing. There's nothing wrong with your child. So you don't just go and start trying to fix everything by next Saturday. Your job tonight is to choose and start with one thing. I've shared quite a number of conversations with you. I've shared quite a number of strategies and tools with you. So your child is choose one, pick one tool, pick one conversation, pick one strategy, pick one new approach that you learned in the process of this teaching, whether last month or this one. So pick something, just one thing from all that I shared with you. Pick one thing this night and then start to do that one thing differently. Remember, that the overarching goal is not merely to raise children who are successful only in the eyes of the world. You see, your goal is to raise young people who are deeply rooted in their identity, who are grounded in godly character. Your goal is to raise young people who are committed to excellence, and young people who are prepared to fulfill the purpose for which God created them. And of course, this does not start in a classroom. It starts in a home. It starts in a home where a parent has taken a decision to connect before correcting. A parent has taken a decision to connect before correcting. A home where a parent has chosen to listen before they lecture. And of course, a home where a parent has chosen to believe in their child's potential, even when the child could not yet see that potential for themselves. That parent is you. So go be that parent, because that parent is you. I would like to stop at this particular point. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Can we all please appreciate our speaker for the night? Please, sir. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's appreciate our speaker for the night, please. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think we'll also go to the chat box now to see if there are any questions that have been placed, I would say, in the chat box. Our speaker began this night by talking to us about, first of all, she gave a recap of what she said the last time about raising young adults who embrace the process of success. And the goal, or what she was saying, is why do young adults think differently, okay? And to help us to see the purpose that drives their motivation. She also told us about how to raise young people who embrace the process and not just people who are looking at shortcuts. She also asked us a big question, and she said, what if your young adult doesn't actually hate school but cannot see why it matters? In essence, she was talking to us about connecting purpose with learning, and she talked about formal and informal education, and that what we really need to do is to connect the child to learning, to be a lifelong learner. Okay. She also talked a bit about parents having a conversation with their child. What's happening there? It's a matured mind having a conversation with, I would say, a child, or let's call it a young adult who is not necessarily really matured, and that part of the issues in the adolescent mind may be issues surrounding identity, issues surrounding purpose, issues surrounding connection of learning to the things they do, issues about building skills, and having conversations about character, and finally, I would say achieving the success. She also helped us to understand that this generation is the highlights generation, and where they consume a lot of success stories, tens of it, hundreds of it, thousands of success stories, without necessarily witnessing a process of connecting the process, to be able to get all those highlights or all those success. She talks about reality and the highlight reel, that what we probably, because you see a 30-second Instagram reel, and the child is always thinking, hey, my life could be like this, but actually the child does not connect practice to it. And really, to be able to get there, we need to connect the children to practice. We need to connect them to a mentor. We need to connect them to books, to reading. We need to connect them to different practical things that will lead them into that kind of life. Because what they see is instant gratification. They do not see the sacrifice. They do not see the role they need to play. He told us that the brain for adolescents, the emotional brain matures really, really faster than the decision-making part of the brain. And because the emotional brain matures really faster, when they see these things, they think that they come like that. She assured us that the children are not necessarily lazy. However, they are neurologically drawn to immediate rewards. And because of that, they want rewards without checking that. And that these things could be a problem of identity. And that really they aren't really chasing money, but really what they are chasing is significance. And they do not see the need of putting in tons and tons of hours in schooling without a connection. She told us about the 5 questions that concern identity. One of them is, who am I? The other one is, where do I belong? And that's where, that we need to also, these are questions surrounding the identity of the child. We need to, that they are thinking about themselves. What am I good at? A 4th one is, why am I here? And that is the purpose for the child. And does my life matter? So she told us about these things, and she said that parents need to confront this, that when parents do not answer these questions, someone else will answer it. YouTube will answer it for them, ChatGPT will answer it for them, TikTok will answer it for them, Instagram will answer it for them, and hence the benefits of connection before correcting. And she says that when a young adult says school is a waste of time, or like they say education is scam, they could be communicating several things. And she told us about the 3 levels of disengagement. What they could be communicating is boredom or under stimulation. She also spoke about the second thing, which is alternative wiring, because they're wired for something else. She said the last or the 3rd layer of layers of disengagement is rebellion or avoiding pain, and that's because they want to avoid pain, they want to avoid sacrifice, they are looking, I would say, for a shortcut. She told us about the warning signs every parent must know. One of them is behavioral warning signs. She talked about emotional warning signs, and she also talked about verbal warning signs also, She reassured us that they don't hate learning, that really what they do is that they hate learning without purpose. And really what we need to do is to try to connect their dreams to the present-day skills that they need to do. So they shouldn't see mathematics as a punishment, but rather they should see mathematics as the building blocks for entrepreneurship. There are a number of things that she has said. What I was trying to do is just to give a little recap, so that for those who came a bit late and for those who missed the session last month, you could probably connect. She also said that the parent's new role is to understand that you are no longer the primary source of information for the child. The child has information at his or her fingertip. You are basically transiting from a lone primary source of information to an interpreter for the world, because at their fingertips they have access. Okay, she talks about the 4 anchoring parenting anchors. Okay, we need to raise the child to affirm his or her identity. We need to raise the child in terms of the character. Okay, we need to look at competence also, and the kind of contributions that they are going to make. She talked about the parenting traps. The first one she talked of is fear-based parenting. Do you want to be a nobody? Using fear, that fear could suppress the behavior of the children. And that's a no, that is not the way to go. She talked about comparison parenting too. Look at your mates, look at this, look at that. She said that you are not good enough, and all those kind of stuff. She said that would not cut it. She also said part of the traps we need to avoid is dream hijacking. If you wanted to be a doctor, you could not. You say, hey, you are going to be a doctor, you'll be a lawyer. She said no, that is forcing the child into a pathway the child did not choose, and definitely it's going to breed mediocrity. She also talked about dismissal without dialogue as being the 4th parenting trap. When you don't take some time to listen to the child, you are shutting down the conversation even before it starts. And then when we do it to the children, the teenage brain feels dismissed and goes into a flight or a threat mode. She said what effective parents need to do differently is first what? Connection. Okay, connection is not when you know a big man in the society who can speak for you. Connection starts in the family, connecting into the world of your child and connecting your child with purpose. It's something she talked about, to have a bigger picture of who the child. She gave an example of asking your child, imagine how you will be maybe at the age of 40. What would you be doing? How would your day be like? And she said the second thing she said is walk the child backwards. You are 15 now, okay? If you want to be that person, you want to be in 10, in 15 years time, in 20 years time, what skills, what would you be doing today to be able to get there? She also talked about the importance of role models also for the child. Okay, we need to connect the child to role models, to mentors, and to people the child looks up to. She also talked about the area about wealth, okay? But when you see the reels, you think the wealth comes instantly, but no. But we need to connect the children into the purpose behind the wealth and what we need to do. She also talked about the love languages, for the child. We need to find out each child has a certain kind of love language. Some children, theirs is acts of service. Another child, it could be quality time. Another child, it could be gifts, okay? For another, it could be words, simple words of affirmation. For another child, it could be physical choice. So I would say the assignment for us as parents is to each of the child, let us find out what is the love language for each particular child and how we can do it. She also talked about the wealth equation. If you understand that wealth comes as not just because of wealth comes because of value, and value, it's a combo. Okay, it's a combo coming from learning. It's a combo coming from learning, skills, and service. And as a child, what they see is wealth, but they do not know that the wealth comes from value. And value is generated when you give yourself to lifelong learning, continuously improving the skills. The sportsmen, the celebrities we see, she told us that they take years and years to practice before they get there. And so she talked about the wealth equation. We need to train the children to see a problem. Okay, and when they see the problem, they begin to ask themselves, what skills can I do? Everybody knows that Facebook was generated by, I think it was Mark Zuckerberg, if I'm not mistaken, when he was in campus. He was thinking of how to connect his year group together. And today, Over 2 billion people, I think, use Facebook because he saw a problem, he had the skills, he created a solution, and that eventually gave him value and gave him some compensation. I'm just trying to recap what the speaker has said so that we can connect. And if you have any questions, please take this time, because I checked the chat box. I didn't see any question. So please take this time to put the questions, because after now, I believe our speaker would have caught her breath and then she can attend to the questions. She also talked about the 6 different kinds of conversations that we really need to have with the kids. The conversation of identity with the child. Who am I? Why are you here? What are you becoming? And the rest of them. The second conversation she talked of is a question of purpose. We need to have conversations of purpose with the child. She also talked about the questions of character. Also, she talked about character. It's a conversation we need to start. And she's saying it's not just to start next Thursday or next Saturday. It's something that is self-paced gradually and to get gradually into the child's world. She talked about the strength conversation we need to talk. We need to talk about also with the child, what are your strengths and the rest of them. She talked about the skill conversation, and finally the legacy conversation. She talked about the learning ecosystem, also training the child, okay, not just for formal school, but informal learning, and to be a lifelong learner. She gave us some biblical foundations like Proverbs chapter 22, verse 29, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will or she will not depart from it. Finally, she ended by giving us an action plan. Action plan 1, identify which layer of disengagement your child is in. Is it boredom, number 1? Is it alternative wiring, number 2? Is it rebellion or avoidance of pain, number 3? She also talked about identifying your child's primary love languages and adjust your communication approach to that. She talked about choosing 1 out of the 6 conversations to have this week. Is it a conversation of strength? Is it that of legacy? Is it of identity? Is it purpose? Which of them do you want to use to strike? And it could be different for each child. She talked about researching into your child's dream and connecting that dream to 3 skills that the child has to build today in order to get to that. But then finally, in the action plan, she talked about finding 1 relatable role model, full story you can expose. Not just a reel, it can be the book. You know, it can be a book, it can be the biography, it can be even a full-fledged interviews for the child. Her final charge has to be said, raising children, we need to raise children who pursue purpose before profit, character before cash, and competence before compensation. And she's ended by saying, connect before you correct, listen before you lecture, believe in them first before they believe in themselves. So I have endeavored to do like a little recap for everyone who has connected today, and I hope this has helped. Now let's go to the questions in the chat box. This is okay. No, I can't. Okay, I just have a comment. This is from Chris Udensi. This is a very insightful, touching all areas of concern for the Gen Z adults. Okay, thank you very much for that, Chris. If you have a question, please, if you've not written it, you can also raise your hands up. Another question here is, my question is, how do we engage the discussion of sex and gender reassignment? Wow, this is another one. I don't know if we talked about this one in this class. I don't know if we talked about this, but anyway, our coach is around. I repeat the question again. How do we engage the discussions on sex and gender reassignment? Okay. All right. Okay. We'll go to this one before we go to I don't know if you heard the question, madam.
Yes, I did.
It's not within the remits. I don't know if is it really within the remits of what we have discussed, or would you want to take it? If not,
no, obviously, it's not within the conversation of the moment, And of course, the question is a bit vague, because when we talk about how do we engage in discussions on sex and gender reassignments, there are a couple of things that I need to understand. What is the age of the child that is being talked about? What is, because a discussion on is something that is age sensitive, right? So that's why it may not be within the context of this conversation. Let me put it that way.
Okay, I really thought as much also, madam. But it's okay. All right. We can have a conversation on this later on, maybe, Chris, or later if you can give the specifics. You could be able to speak with our coach. Okay, no.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yeah. Someone has asked, please, can we have the recorded teaching? Yes, you will have it. Just do two things. I don't know if the WhatsApp group has been shared on the chat box. I can't find it, John Chukwuemeka. Did you share the WhatsApp on the... Can you share the WhatsApp group? Join, you can see the WhatsApp group. Join that WhatsApp group, please. Click on it. You'll be permitted. We will share the materials. Everything will be uploaded on Aspire for Excellence YouTube channel. Okay, you can go there, you can watch the last one, and you can also watch this one. Okay, later on if you want to. So everything is there. The ones we've had last year, in fact, you see all the years we have. So all you need to do, you also see the YouTube channel there. Okay, Aspire for Excellence Foundation YouTube. Click on that link, and like I said, subscribe, like any new ones you have, you will also get them also there. Okay, you see the Facebook, you see the WhatsApp group. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat box again for now. I don't know if people have raised up their hands, but I can check if we have any questions, any hands raised. It seems last month we had a lot of questions. This month it doesn't seem as though the questions are coming woto. I don't know why, but this is where we are. Okay, if you have any questions, please, could you please raise up your hand and then we could call you. But in any case, I think I would also, while you are contemplating your questions, I would also want to do something, please. Okay, I would also want to do something. Just a moment, please. I don't know if you, okay. So if you have a question to ask, please make sure you do that, please. Okay, raise up your hand and I'm going to call you soon. Okay. Okay, I will try just one moment here. Just raise up your hand. I will try to call you. Just for you to know, okay, our speaker for tonight is also an author of a book. Can you see my screen, please? Maybe you need to speak because I'm not sure I'm saying. Okay, you can see my screen. Our speaker tonight is also the mentor of a book, okay? The title of the book is The Invisible Mentor Effect. How to become the voice your teenager trusts most before social media takes your place. This can be gotten on seller.com. If you check the chat box, you will see the link there. You can order. I think from what I see here is like 5,500 or something like that. That is not even up to what we take for lunch. Some of us on this call. Some of us on lunch on this call, we take multiple, I would say 2, 3 times or 4 times what it is. So if you want more resources, please go to seller.com, okay? And I will also share this in the WhatsApp group also for those who have access to the WhatsApp group. Or you go to seller.com, you look for the Invisible Mentor Effect, okay, by Mrs. Nzekwe, okay, Nkiruka Nzekwe, and you can get the book there, and I think that also could help. Okay, so Thank you very much. I think we'll go back. Let's see if we have any more questions before we call it a night. No hands up. Let me check again if we have any more questions. Okay. If you check the chat box, you can see also seller.com and you can see the invisible mentor effect. Okay. It doesn't appear as though there are any other questions. If there are none, I would want to thank you, madam, for taking the time for the past 2 months, last month and this one, to give us valuable information on youths, on the teenagers, and everyone. Okay, so thank you very much, madam. Can we all please appreciate madam once again, please? If you have hands, please do something to let madam know that you appreciate her taking the time, the effort. You agree with me. And please, everyone, take out some time. Go to YouTube, please. Go to YouTube. Listen it again. I think it was quite fast. Take a pen, take a paper, take your book, and try to record and try to write this thing. We have taken time to record this for you, please. So go watch it over and over and over. It's my prayer that all our kids, our young adults will become outstanding people we are proud of, people who will make us proud, our family proud, our name proud, our family proud, our society proud, and finally God proud. Okay, with that, madam, I want to say a big thank you to you once again tonight for taking our time. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam, and God bless you.
God bless you too for having me. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, madam. And now it's my turn to thank those who have connected. One question has come when we're about to disengage. Okay, let's take it. We don't know what will be in this question. Flourish, please. Your hand is up. Your question, please.
Sorry, it was an error.
Go ahead.
It was an error, so.
It was an error. Okay, you wanted to clap your hand and you raised your hand. Are you sure you won't ask a question by fire by force? No, I'm just joking. All right, thank you. So let me say thank you to all those who have connected. Please say something in the chat box if madam has blessed you. Write something, a word or two. It's always good to be grateful. It's always good to show gratitude. While I'm calling those who have connected tonight, please make sure you appreciate madam. Adeyebi Ediboko, thank you for coming. Aneto, thank you. Anthony Arum, wonderful, thank you. Augustine Daniel, wonderful. Many people have not seen. Thank you so much. Babatunde, thank you very, very much. Belema, Baba Mary, thank you so much. Mrs. Chibuzo, thank you. Madam Chibuzo Iwebo, thank you. Chidiebere, thank you. Chigozie, thank you. Stephen Chinedu, oh, thank you. Chinonso Nwanosike, thank you. Chris Udensi, thank you so much. Chuksego, thank you. Wami, the gentle giants, thank you. Daniel Indifo, thank you for coming tonight. Daniel Onwibo, also thank you. Daniel Namdi, thank you. We have a lot of Daniels tonight. Thank you. David Praise, thank you for coming. Dawari Brown, thank you, sir. Thank you, Pastor Chris Eze, for coming. Ejike Onya, thank you so much. Agnes Emmanuel, thank you. Emmanuel Sule, thank you for coming. Madam Eresia, thank you. Monsieur Eric Robinson, good evening, sir. Thank you for coming. Esther Ikechuku Ikara, thank you for coming tonight. Esther Onibo, thank you for coming. Pastor Amechina Eugene, thank you for coming. Flourish Afiolu, thank you. Bishop Francisca Duruji, thank you for coming. Ganobi, thanks for coming. Geoffrey, thanks for coming. Also, George, thank you. Godson Beremako, thank you for coming. My elder. Good evening, sir. Godson Uzuko. Welcome, sir. Godi Amadi, thank you for coming. Idowu Cornelius, such a long time, thank you. Pastor Ife Kudu Arinze, thank you. Ifoma Agwaza, thank you, madam, for taking time. Kome, thanks for coming. Lekon, thank you so much for coming. Lucky Odume, thank you for coming. Madam Mata Ezekiel, thank you. Mbeledike, thanks for coming. Nkechi, thank you so much. Bombs, thanks very much, all the way from France. Thank you. Nina, thank you for sparing some time out of your busy schedule. Obumneme, thank you so much for coming. Olemeforo. Jacob Ogberibe, thank you. Margaret Ogbeshi Akaye, thank you. Peter Eyetwomo, thank you. Pastor Pius Isekwene, thank you, sir, for coming. My brother Prince, thank you so much for coming. And we have another Prince Ojerica here. Thank you for coming, Prince. Queen, the engineer, Queen Laura Ebovie, thank you, madam, for coming. Rosemary, thank you for coming. Pastor Sabi Onuibo, thank you, Daddy. Thank you, sir, for coming. Madam Salome, God bless you so much, madam. Thank you so much for coming. Seni Uwa, thank you so much. Tunde, thank you, sir. Walter Alo, thank you so much. I'm grateful to you all for coming tonight. The Lord bless you all, and I hope you have learned something. We will put